Well, that's the refurbished block. We can just see peeping over the top there. And as Deputy Tadier was pointing out, obviously it sort of shines out as a rather fine new structure, or looks like a new structure. A lot of structures around here are getting rather tired. These are the garages, which we presume go with them, blocks of garages, which presumably again Andium will have to maintain, will they?
Yeah.
Right, and this is the railway walk, so it's quite a good, I mean, it's a good location, isn't it? It's got lots of, you know, you can go down and kick a ball around there.
So we've got a concrete bench over there, which is...
There's a concrete bench, rather cold to sit,
yeah.
cold to sit on today, and that's the old school over the top there. So it's a good location. But I'm wondering, a lot of these properties up here, because of this mixed ownership thing, there's going to be a strange arrangement, isn't it? Some are going to get tatty, some are going to be maintained, some aren't. Andium will own some are through property services, different organisations. Can it be managed on a long-term basis? Now it's getting to that, it's all right when things start off nice and new for the first 20 years, but after, you know, we've gone from 1960s these have been here.
And we've got a school, of course. It's the big elephant in the room,
That's
if
right.
you like.
Which it's not going there, it's going...
Well, it will be on...
over there.
Over there, past the Bellevue development. If you see the tower of the airport, it will be before
Right.
that.
So the school site presumably becomes housing, does it, as far as we know?
Well, I think that's going to be an interesting conversation to have, and you know, I think especially with the residents around here, there's a feeling that on the one hand, of course, it's already a residential area, but I think you know, the school being redeveloped, in, you know, what's the best use of the site? I think there's some reluctance for certainly some of the political representatives, myself included, and the residents, to see high density housing here. And the question is, could it be put to a better use? So I've suggested in the past we could have the parish hall up here, community centre, the parish hall right in the heart of the community where most people live. And why not develop the parish hall in St Albans for housing?
Put a nice railway station there, couldn't we?
Yeah.
No, I mean, all these things are... The island plan, this is the problem about the island plan, it's such an inadequate plan. It's got such a narrow vision about what might be, mightn't it? I mean, I don't know if they're ever going to do an island plan, but they're more concerned about stopping things happening, as far as I can make out. It's all green zones and extra green zones.
I mean, I think if we had some blue sky thinking, and you know, what could be here, if people, you know, there have been all sorts of suggestions. A community space, you could have a parish hall with a market outside of it. You could have shops which are, you know, low rents, but you could have a fishmonger, a baker. It could be locally owned, it could be local produce, so people, you know, there's all sorts of ideas, and it's a case of if you can get buy-in. And I'm not advocating one or either of those options necessarily, but I think it's exciting. But we know that the preferred option from the state's point of view will be housing, you know, build them, stack them high.
Well, as you know, there are these mysterious 10,000 missing people which nobody ever discusses, do they? We're never going to house those, are we? The non-qual sector, which nobody will even discuss. What is that, do you think?
Well, I think it's not just those. I think that is really important, but you've got all this money, and you've talked about it in the past. You've got people paying rents out there, and the rents that they're paying on a monthly basis far exceed what a mortgage repayment might. And where's all that money going? You know, that's potential money that could be going into...
But we can't go on forever having these 10,000 people and their children who aren't properly housed. It can't go on forever. We can't say they're got to be at the back of a queue, because that queue will never get any shorter, will it, the way things are?
Yeah, I think that's true.
OK, let's go wander somewhere else. The strange aspects about housing in Jersey is, some people wouldn't realise it, but there actually is a housing minister still, Deputy Pryke. What's her involvement in all this? Does she have a view on it?
It's a good question, because we have a housing minister without a housing department, and we've got a strategic housing unit which actually comes under the chief minister. So it's a very good question. I suspect the housing minister doesn't have much to do with social housing on a day-to-day basis. That's pretty much been devolved to the new Quango, that is Andium. and that they can effectively run as an arm's length company, make their own decisions, and that's what the states envisaged, that's what they wanted. So I think you posed the question, and I have in the past, what is the purpose of the housing minister? I certainly would see it that if I were housing minister, I would like to take a high level view of private rentals in Jersey, not just in the social sector but across the board, both unqualified and qualified, and I'd bring in regulation for it and make sure that we up standards and look at some form of rent control. I mean,
I thought the purpose of Andium was to try and coordinate to get the control. But you say about some of these properties are owned still by states departments, but public health, they own a lot of housing accommodation. Yet one of the strange things about the new hospital is that they're hoping that Andium will provide accommodation for the staff at the new hospital, because they're going to demolish what bit they've got, and how Andium somehow or other have got to raise the finance to do that for them. I mean, it's a very complex scenario when we thought it was going to be a simplified scenario, wasn't it? That was the object of having Andium brought in at all, wasn't it? Or one of the objects.
I think in the Jersey context there's a strange mixture of paternalism which has been there historically, and you see that in previous decades states' decisions, and the wish to avoid nationalisation. So I think you've got the modern Conservatives don't really like the idea of state ownership. They want to put everything out to the private sector or do it through through Quangos, and the States of Jersey Development Company is probably an example of a mishmash there. But I think ultimately that there's a paternalism that wants to provide social housing and look after people.
Why do you think this particular block? How many units are there in this particular block here that's just been refurbished?
There are 8.
8. So they're going to collect rents. Any idea why they haven't sold them off?
It's a good question. I think it's because strategically we need social rented properties in St Brelard, especially in this area. There isn't really enough, and I suspect it's quite a good income stream for them as well in the long term.
But they're desperate for capital. They want capital. I mean, they've got this £250 million loan which they've already had. They want to borrow another 250, but obviously more borrowing is totally out of the question. Now they got the problem with the hospital borrowing. So Andium desperately want the way to raise capital is to sell off properties like this. This would be an ideal to sell off, wouldn't it?
But I think it's strategically, and it's part of the portfolio. There's already the demand there, and they had existing tenants. So I think they would have also faced a political struggle had they suggested it. But I don't think they should be selling off any property ideally, but that they would say that there are certain properties which are just not worth having in the portfolio, which they can use the money better.
And since they're supposed to be a social housing provider, why aren't they into the homeless hostel business? And why are those done on a sort of a semi-voluntary basis? Why? I mean, that is the rock bottom of social housing, is the housing for homeless people.
Yeah, and traditionally that's done by the charitable sector, and it has been. So I suppose you could say that the demand for affordable housing, whether it's social or otherwise, far outstrips what we've actually got. And I suppose Andium, in their defence, have to start somewhere, and they start by doing what they've always done, is providing the basic social housing.
Is your party coming to the States with a grand plan for housing? Have you got any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm certainly going to be working on some housing ideas. And putting them forward as part of the wider reform package, certainly.
Okay, we shall watch with interest. Thanks.
Right.